It is the 25th of December, 1978. 150 battle-hardened Vietnamese troops invade Cambodia and overrun the outgunned army of dictator Pol Pot in just 2 weeks, thereby ending the Khmer Rouge government. Upon entering the Cambodian capital, Vietnamese troops find it a ghost town due to Pol Pot's horrific atrocities, a man responsible for the deaths of almost a quarter of all Cambodians between 1975 until his eventual downfall 45 months later. This is The Historiographer, and today the history behind the Cambodian Genocide and how Pol Pot single-handedly exterminated between 1.5 to 3 million people will be explored. The eventual leader of Cambodia, Pol Pot, was born as Salot Tsar in French Indochina into a rich farming family in 1925. As a young man, Pol Pot was sent to study in Paris in the 1940s, where he joined the French Communist Party. In Paris, Pol Pot was heavily inspired by the writings of Mao Zedong and Joseph Stalin. Back in Cambodia, the Cambodian king Sihanouk had become increasingly authoritarian, leading to clandestine movements with the aim of ousting the king. Upon returning to Cambodia in 1953, Pol Pot began to envision his model for a communist Cambodia. He combined Maoist and Leninist ideologies with intense Khmer ethno-nationalism and an idealization of an agrarian, self-sufficient Cambodia. In short, instead of Mao's great leap forward towards industrialization, Pol Pot aimed for a great leap backwards towards agrarianism and the abolishing of industries. In 1960, the Cambodian king assumed total political control as prime minister. This radicalized many communist members, leading to the formation of the Khmer Rouge by Pol Pot in the same year. In 1963, the group launched an insurgency in the jungle against Sihanouk's government. However, 10 years later in 1970, the king was ousted by a US-backed coup led by Colonel Lon Nol. In a dramatic twist of fate, the king joined forces with his previous enemies, the Khmer Rouge, to regain his kingdom. He subsequently used his popularity and called for all citizens to join the Khmer Rouge to fight against the new republic. 8 years later, the Khmer Rouge entered the capital of Phnom Penh in April of 1975. Pol Pot wasted no time in setting his vision into action. As soon as he entered the capital, he reneged on his promise of returning power to the king and immediately rounded up the bourgeoisie, or, in other words, any intellectual able to challenge the new regime. Millions of city inhabitants were rounded up and sent to work in the rice farms with the aim of attaining self-sufficiency. These rice farms would infamously become known as the killing fields. In an effort to meet quotas, guards would often work the farmers to death, all while reducing rations to a meager amount. The Khmer Rouge hence established a totalitarian regime, stripping citizens of basic rights such as civil liberties, property ownership, and religious freedom. They imposed strict controls on language and clothing. Punishment for minor infractions led to detention in harsh prisons where torture and execution were the norm, notably at the infamous S21 prison in the capital, where camp members were frequently photographed and killed. Thousands of people perished in these facilities, where only a handful survived. Industries were destroyed, currency was abolished, and any dissident was killed along with his family. The twisted logic of Pol Pot was to, quote-unquote, root out the entire tree to prevent future revenge and any danger on the regime. Children as young as 8 years old were seized from their families and sent to party members, where they were brainwashed into serving Pol Pot's insanity. Ethnic and religious minorities suffered too, with Christians, Muslims, and Buddhists being equally fought. Minorities such as Thai, Malay, and Cham peoples were heavily persecuted. In fact, 70% of the Cham Muslim people was eradicated, with the death toll being 500,000 victims. In his 45 months of terror, Pol Pot had genocided between 1.5 to 3 million victims. A especially tragic survival story is that of medical doctor Heng Esengor. When the Khmer Rouge entered the capital in 1975, the doctor was forced to hide his education, medical expertise, and even the fact that he wore glasses, as he sought to evade the hostility of the new regime towards intellectuals and the intelligentsia. Like millions of others, he was expelled in 1975 during the Year Zero experiment and detained in a concentration camp with his wife. Despite being a gynecologist, he could not provide the necessary care for his pregnant wife, fearing that exposure could have led to their graves. Tragically, his wife died during childbirth, along with their unborn child. The doctor was able to flee the camps along with his niece, where he immigrated to the United States in 1980, though he did not remarry. On the 23rd of December 1978, despite being outmanned, Pol Pot attacked Vietnam for the second time in his reign. His aim was to conquer the southern Vietnamese lands. The Vietnamese government had enough, and 2 days later, it invaded and liberated the country from Pol Pot's brutality. Vietnamese troops were shocked to discover the atrocious conditions orchestrated by the Khmer Rouge, notably at the S-21 camp, with thousands of civilians dead and mass graves being found. Pol Pot was hence deposed by Vietnam, where a communist Vietnamese puppet state was established in 1979. However, the US could not support a government backed by the Vietnamese, which, by extension, was backed by the Soviets. As such, the United States continued to endorse Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge as the official government of Cambodia. The rest of the world followed suit, and the Khmer Rouge were allowed a seat at the UN for many years after they were deposed from power. While the United Nations did set up tribunals to prosecute top Khmer Rouge officials for their role in the genocide, it fell short of prosecuting Pol Pot, who continued waging a guerrilla war with his party against the successive Cambodian governments, where he was even granted protection by the Thai military. In 1997, he was, however, put on trial by his own party after an internal power struggle that ousted him from his leadership position. Sentenced to life imprisonment by a People's Tribunal, Pol Pot died in April of 1988, though details of his death remain unclear. Some sources say he poisoned himself after losing the leadership position, while others say that he died of a heart attack. In any case, he died unrepentant on his deathbed, without acknowledging his crimes nor showing any remorse. Ending the video with this fun fact: some communist members defend Mao and Stalin, yet it is incredibly rare to see communists defending Pol Pot, which is telling. In fact, communists seem to detach themselves from the Cambodian leader, portraying him as a deranged radical Khmer ethno-nationalist who attached himself to the communist wagon. This video, while particularly brutal, is nevertheless a reminder regarding the catastrophic consequences on the failure to intervene in the face of mass atrocities, as well as the failure to hold war criminals accountable, a fact that is still relevant to this day and age. This has been the Historiographer, and for now, see you in the next video.